Hello everybody, it's Cheryl Millett here, live at 5 for a Thursday. And I couldn't help myself but come on because there was just several things that were all kind of coming in. To actually wait a day means I might not remember everything. That's not the main reason, but here we are. So live at 5, all healthy. The idea is to go through something different, something new, then talk about the news, talk about whatever kind of comes in, and then some jokes. And there's a couple good ones for today. Anyway, let's get started because time ticks on, and the something new is GAB. Not that it's so new, it's like 4 years old, but what do I mean by GAB? Well, gabbing, gab, which you gab about things, but it's actually off on its own servers, so it's not being serviced by anybody who can shut them down. But here, that's interesting. So I just kind of signed up. I'm going to be over there checking it out. Looks very similar to here, FB. And most people know what FB is these days, but that's very interesting. Looks very similar, but it looks like it covers off the same things. There's definitely similar things there. So I'm going to post something below, but it's probably better that you just search it up. If I post it down below, I'm not quite sure how these algorithms are going to kind of work that way. But that's just something new. Very quick, I want to talk about that. But here's something interesting. Language, I know I kind of put the word language there, but the book club that got back into doing for the reasons I think is good during this time, I call it Awakening Book Club, ABC, but that's just, I don't know, fun. That's just me having fun at the end of the day. So what I was tuned into this morning, so I started to read the first book of the series that we're going to do all this year in 2021. And in reading, so the translate, because this is really originally from Russian, so it would have been in Russian, and this is English, and the translator actually opens up and does the preface. And in here he goes into, because there's, be it that it was in Russian, and then now it's coming into English, and be it this is like 2005, 2004. Good morning from, to India, from Canada. So the idea here is to recognize language and certain words have the definitions on them. How we would look at them has changed over the years, seriously. And one word in particular that stood out in reading this preface from this book was the word. Now, I don't know if I'm going to do this any justice as far as the Russian word, but let's go chelovek. Chelovek. And so it's designated actually to all humanity, both men and women, as thinking, intelligent beings. Now, what this word would kind of be, so the German word is Mensch. And so what is it in English, as in how it's originally, is man. So man, designated to all humanity, both men and women, as thinking, intelligent beings. So fast forward whatever decades, hundreds of years, I know it's in here somewhere, they have created in today's usage to exclude half of the total number of sentient thinking beings on this planet, females, right? So in the Bible, they just mention here briefly about, and then there was man, being all human beings in that way. But he was going to use the word shelovek in the translation. However, he decided to use this alternative. So he really kind of brings into, you just got to think here as the meaning of the word man as a manifestation of eternal mind. And he goes in and he's going to use man, but with a capital M, so that it includes you. So man with a capital M. So we're just not getting into the way we have considered man all of these years. Well, at least my lifetime and how many generations passed. But it did talk about 20th century, that's original universal sense made a comeback of sorts. Okay, so now, but 11th, so it's interesting to note that from the 11th to the 19th century in Russia, the word Shelevek itself suffered the same fate as the English word man. So somewhere, so that's a long time. That's almost, uh, it's almost 1,000 years where people just get man, man. Maybe that's where man thought men, and the males thought they needed to be in control of everything. That's a lot of pressure for you men, to tell you the truth. So the way I've kind of looked at it in some respects. But that's that word. I want to go into one more word because I like this language thing. So anything that comes up, I want to bring it here to Live at 5 for that reason. So that's an Anastasia book in the preface. So if you have that book, or even if you're part of the book club here, you will have read it before we have our next meeting. You will have read that. It'll be more detail. So now I have to go into translate here because there was a pun, a joke, whatever, that I put on that had to do with mortgage. And my cousin Eric mentions, and he's got a French background, but mort, and M-O-R-T in French is death, dying. I'll bring it up here just to give you more of the idea. It'll come up here. So I'm just going to start with more. So what I did as a result of that today, took it apart and went, okay, so more. Here we go. It's should come up in French. Why are we doing English here? English, mort, quarry, killed. It's not coming up the same way. Translate it from French. So let's just see. Not coming up, but it means dying. It means death. Did I actually write it down? Yes, I did. So, yeah, dead, died, gone, extinct, dying, dead man. That's mort, M-O-R-T. First part of mortgage. And then gage is offer, or that's in English. It's offer. And in French, it means a pledge, a guarantee, or even a wager. When you put the two together, it's what we understand as mortgage, a contract that you're signing in, to do that. So let me see if it'll come up here again, because I can read it exactly. Mortgage. So here we go. Yeah, legal agreement by which a bank or creditor lends money at interest in exchange for taking title of the debtor's property, with condition that the conveyance of the title becomes void upon payment of the debt. So that's interesting. You got this debtor's property, and the bank owns it until you paid it back. So there you go. But in French, it is a different word. Now I'm going to try to say hypothèque. No, hypothèque. Yeah, that's how you say it. Hypothèque. So that's mortgage in French. But if you take it apart, which typically is what you're doing in language, taking apart, putting things together, it means dying pledge, dying guarantee, death, dying. So interestingly enough, I know there's a lot more to language, but what I liked about the mortgage thing coming up under the pun or the joke was that, having just read Anastasia's preface about man and how that has changed over time, this also gets back to, and I did last night watch the movie. Remember, yes, I did. I talked about it on Tuesday, about the trailer, to do with the historical facts and history about New Zealand, about the people. The people in New Zealand, the Maori, were deemed and written and taught that they were the first people in New Zealand, but they weren't. And then I think it's Hotu Hotu is there's still very few of them, but it's part of the lineage. So there's kind of like a joining of tribes or early peoples, as it would say. And some of the written stories had said there were people there before them. But there is definitely the strength thing, and the Maori, if I'm saying it right, Hotu Hotu, were very peaceful people. And in fact, if they took somebody else's life, it was like taking their own. If you take somebody else's life, then you might as well give up your own life, I guess, in that way. So very interesting. I just kind of skimmed through it. I don't know if I'll finish watching and watch the two, but the idea is, there you go, another way of misleading people to believe a certain way when it's there. So they kind of made the earlier peoples before the Maori as fictional or fairy tales, that kind of thing. So it's interesting that as we're reading and going through our schooling, our education, what are they teaching us? I mean, what part of it is real? What part of it may be, as they say, written by the victors, and so forth? Because what do we have anything else to stand on when it comes to? But there was, fortunately for New Zealand, written pieces and different understandings, and they were able to do some genetic testing. So they were able to see that the people, the Hotu Hotu, and some of the people that came, there's some names that they came from Easter Island, the fair skin, the red skin. So certain of these fairy tales had clues in there. And they were also in Peru and kicked out of Peru, went to Easter Island. And I'm sure there's more to it. I might be able to sort it out. But according to the genetic testing, they were actually originally kind of come from Egypt or Persian, that kind of area, Persia. So that was kind of fascinating. So I might just finish it, wrap it up, the second one, go watch that for an hour. So that trailer was posted, and maybe now that I have the first one up here, maybe I'll post that one down below, the link, so you'll see which source or which YouTube channel I'm going to be watching the two on, and I'll make it easier on you on that way. So that's language, and I'm sure there's a lot more that we could uncover there, but let's just bring that up. The other things I wanted to talk about was, there is a call tonight, and the call tonight, you might find it very interesting. I'm going to bring up the message here so I can speak to it that easier. I just had things open here. It is an officer, an OPP officer, that is speaking out. So this is, I might have mentioned Sylvain Henry's Zoom meetings in the evenings, and he's been having some very interesting ones, which the other word, isolated. I'm going to talk to that. That was on the call the other night, Tuesday night, but after the live at 5 on Tuesday. And so Officer Vincent Gearsees is going to be talking. He's a recently retired OPP officer, and what I've kind of discovered, or what I've been told, is the doctors, the OPP, certain people of that nature, of that position, they're speaking out because they're retired, so they don't have any fears about losing their jobs, which I hear from some of the professors that came on the call, as they come on anonymously, and they're part in learning and listening at the same time, wouldn't dare to speak out about certain things because other professors have lost their jobs. So, we might think that, how come they're not speaking out more than they do? But again, if you want to be on Sylvain Henry's email, he's got several hundred on there now. It gives you an idea of what's coming up, so you can join in. Plus it gives you some links, so you're able to go and get some more information. But the beautiful thing about those calls, those Zoom calls, is the people come on and sure, they share what they share, and then it's open for questions. It's open for questions. I've been on calls where they were 3 hours long, And the fellow that I've talked about for masks, Chris Schaefer, is actually coming on again. The truth about masks from a Canadian respiratory expert. Call him respiratory expert, and that's January the 19th, the Tuesday at 7:30. So if I introduce you to Sylvain, and he'll put you on the email list, you'll actually get this is the coolest. So going to mention this for sure. So this Saturday at 7:30 p.m., Phoenix and Aaron, these are teens that are rising up for freedoms, and they are going to be the guest speakers, the host, and the most of the attendees will be teens. So if you know any teenagers, this would be an awesome call. I know there's a limit of 100 people that can be on these Zoom calls, so it would be great to get as many teens as possible on the call. I don't know if I'll be on there for the reason of I might kind of like slip on and maybe 5 or 10 minutes in just to see if there's any room. But some of his calls recently, and the one on Tuesday night, there were 70 people on that call. Now let me explain who this person was. I think there's a little bit of bio here. Let's go into that. So that's the call. Wanted to make sure I told you about that. I'll put the link below to the first room. The way it works is they kind of switch rooms, and depending on how long it goes, because it's a free Zoom account, it's supposed to be only on there for an hour. And before we go, so we got Sylvain. I talked about the GAB, and yeah, there's a nurse. So I'm going to post this link too. This is another site as well. I think it's called Template. Let me just see. I actually brought up the Telegram. Sorry, Telegram is another one, but I'm gonna that'll introduce you to this other platform. A friend here on Facebook here sent it. Actually, she's part of the Awakening Book Club too. She sent the link, and David Wolf is thank goodness he's awake. That's awesome. And he sent this is a very short video, and I'll put the link down below, of a young lady who's in works in the hospital down in Florida, and they do the sleep, put everybody to sleep, and of course they have their space, pre and post operation, and I believe, but I'm just kind of head nurse manager, senior manager, something like that, came in. So there's kind of an echoing in the short video that she's doing in the car. Came in to talk to them and said, be prepared. Next week, there's going to be an outbreak. Imagine that. There's going to be an outbreak next week. That's just like saying this pandemic's going to come, like Fauci said, way back in whatever, 2016. And I'm going, how the heck are you going to know these? So they were told they're going to need their space. Next week is going to be an outbreak. We're going to need your space. And she knew enough to ask the question, well, how would you know this is going to happen? And I can't say it in her words. You're going to have to listen to it. It was more to the tune of, well, you're smart enough. You've figured it out. You've probably figured it out by now. Something like to that nature. But short video, check it out. I'm going to put the link below. But the idea is, the beautiful idea here is that more and more people are going, what the hey, it's just what's going on is insane. But that's the beautiful thing about it. That's why I say to people, there's no sense in bashing what's going on, because if this didn't go on, then how would we know? And how would this be the time of gathering information? So on that note, here's a little bit of, I'm going to say higher self stuff. Let's say, some people will call it channeling, but I think it's very interesting because I was just thinking about this. And this has been known to a number of people. So this is the beginning of the establishment of an intergalactic confederation as the old system is crumbling in front of the eyes of the Earth's population. So there's a lot of positive here of influences that they're saying in the world. I know the title can sound a little off there, but I like to read everything and take everything in and just not get hung up on names or anything like that. But we are moving into a heightened state of awakening of the masses. I can see that. People that I talked to 6 months ago and 5 months, 4 months, 3 months before that, the unbelievers and the mind controlled population, we've talked about this, about marketing, and you have lots of other evidence of that. Mind controlled population of Earth are moving into the first stages of awakening. For many, this will come as a shock, and they will inevitably experience the dark night of the soul, as they call it. Well, any shock of such nature where you didn't think you had any clue. Well, by now I think some people have heard things and it's been labeled as conspiracy theories, so they just throw it out the window, but there would be an inkling of hearing it before. I think that's going to be a savior for a number of people, but it's going to be necessary, to process and shed the layers of programming and false beliefs. And I've talked about the trafficking, and other people talking about, and satanic families. I've mentioned that before. That's program. That's mind programming in and of itself. The trauma and how to get there and being disassociated from what's kind of going on. So here, this is the last comment that I thought was interesting. The U.S. election 2020 has been utilized to become the greatest coup d'etat in universal history. So, in essence, just what I was saying earlier, to remind me of this coming in today, was not to look at any part of this as being bad. None of it. Yes, people leave the planet all the time, and death is a real thing, and they may very well, as we understand from the past, allow people to see and look deep and change, actually, and kind of just get into what matters most. What matters most. And I think that is what we're getting to. What matters most here. Why did I keep the walk club going? Because I knew mental health would matter most. All of the other stuff I had, an understanding what was going on, not a complete understanding to share the story and to have proof and facts in the lab and all that kind of stuff, will get me into what I think is very exciting. Super duper exciting here. So I wrote my notes down. So the other night on Sylvain Henry's call, a person came on, and he's a chemist, and he worked with Health Canada for a number of years. Now, I won't go through the detail he did, but he basically talked to what he had experience in and how that comes into play. He had a lovely presentation, so visuals were great for people to understand. And because he did testing and he talked about standards, so we really want to go into this. So I want to bring this part up, because as I've talked about quality of supplements before and how things are spoken of, it kind of sets the stage for that, all of that, but then it's going to set the stage for what I'm going to tell you. So here you go. Most of when they say things are approved, it's because they've checked off the criteria. It doesn't mean, so let's think, if you have guidelines and you have criteria and you have rules and you have regulations, as long as you meet all of those, check, then you're good to go as far as it being what it is. And I'm thinking about drugs, the medicine in the drugs. So really, as far as quality goes, that's not there, if that makes any sense at all. You've checked all the criteria off, but it's the quality that makes a difference here. A huge difference. And that's not covered off by criteria, if you know what I mean. So he wanted to make that clear. Now, to do with certain other things that are happening during this event, you might have heard there's a gold standard. a gold standard. You might have heard that with the testing. So let me carry on here. Now I'm just going to speak off the top of my head now because it's going to be much easier than if I'm trying to I want to kind of make sure I've got things in here. Okay, so the key thing, really, people, the key thing is what we have been hearing and reading about, and of course our own selves not understanding enough about it. So I'm going to go off top of mind here. So here's where I'm going to go with it. There is the word that I put up there, isolated, and as I spoke to and put up an Irish person, somebody from Ireland speaking about, they got formal paperwork back to say that there is no isolation, there's no isolated virus. So what is that? Let me explain it to top of mind. So if I take a goop out of your nasal, right? So you've got this material that comes out of your nasal, back of your sinuses or something. That is material, not of just the virus. There's going to be material there of other things, okay? And to determine that the virus, as you think is the virus, you would take it out of that material that was just swabbed, so you have that material, and you would remove everything else so you have the isolated virus as you think it is. Then you have to prove that that's actually what's making the mucus or making the symptoms of the cold or whatever it is. And you got to prove it. You got to take that isolated thing, you got to add it in, and you've got to make sure that that is what it is. And then that's been spoken about before. When people are kind of quoting out there, oh, there's studies, read it, it says isolated virus and all of this in there. What the chemist said on Tuesday night that was very, very important was he says they're not using the word isolated properly. Okay, that's huge, because for those people who do their homework and or some people, yes, they found it isolated, you're passing and seeing information, it's not being used properly. So what does this mean? Because it's always a good question. Oh, what does it mean? Well, what it means is the things that the PCR test is looking for is not the isolated virus. Okay, they have deemed a particular part of a protein or something as what they're looking for. It could be something completely different, something similar, but maybe not similar, who knows. So if this whole global planet does not have the isolated virus, that means that the PCR test, beyond the PCR test, not supposed to be used for infectious disease, it's just a photocopier. So if you go over a number of cycles, 10, 15, it means that you've just increased copies of maybe perhaps just one little piece of something that they said they would be looking for, but not the isolated virus as they talk to today. And so you have what? The test on two fronts are bogus. And then next to that, these lovely VAs, VACCINES, has no hold either. Because at the end of the day, how you build up your immune system is you get exposed to the virus. And how can you get exposure if they haven't isolated the virus? So what's in there? mRNA. What is in there? It's a very, very good question. Hey, Sharon. Hello, Ferdinand. So there you go. That should be in itself enough understanding to feel more confident and comfortable, to be kind to fellow man, which is both female and males, as I've gone through the language with us here. And just, if people are interested, then you have something. You have something to speak to in that regard. So this was an expert on a call describing and sharing how he knows what he knows, that he's qualified to know what he knows, and using a PowerPoint presentation so you can visually see what he's talking about and to understand is that. So no, there is no isolated virus, as we know the virus that they keep labeling out there. End of story. Now, I think the reason why I don't get kicked off of FB is because there's probably not enough viewers here, like some of these other people that are getting kicked off of many other platforms. So you have to be very popular. But the way I think, if 10 people here, if 40 people here, or 100 people here, or 150 people here, is 150 people more than zero, 10 people more than zero, I'm good with that. You know, I'm good with that. So maybe that's, sometimes I think, a saving grace, as they say it. A saving grace is very cool. So one of the things I'm noticing with people outside walking is they're wearing their mask. And what I've heard from a few people is it keeps their face warm. So I'm going to say to people, get a scarf. Keep your face warm with a scarf. And get one that, I don't know, you can buy these neck scenarios. I have them. I didn't have time to get it. But they're just, you know, they pull over your head. Forget about your hair looking good afterwards, but you pull it over, and it's like a, you know, a turtleneck, but it's super long, so then you can just bring it up your nose, but it covers your neck as well. So that's the one thing, that's the bonus of a scarf, is it covers your neck as well. But those other things, again, they're extra long, and yeah, you got to pull them over your head, so it's one piece, and it beautifully would keep, and warmer than any mask. So I find it funny that these people say that, and I say get a scarf, but I've got to pull that out and probably wear it or have it with me to say, you know, I'm just getting curious with these people that are walking by themselves 50 feet all around them, and they've got their mask on, and I'm going to ask them, are you wearing your mask because it keeps your face warm? Just curious. They'll be okay. We'll just warm up to it. But that was one thing I wanted to mention. So I'm going to post the nurse speaking. Yes. I'm going to post the link for Sylvain Henry's call for tonight with the OPP police officer. I'll post the link for GAB, or at least put the name below. And I think that's probably, if anything else comes up, great. But yeah, consider language might be a bust in some cases. So now I just want to speak in ways that, or analyze, you know, what the words are. And I am saying it in French, closer to Latin, and see if anything comes to mind. But really, yeah, mortgage, mort being dead, dying, mortgage. So why would they use something like that in a sense? So this is where we're going to do some joke time, unless any comments, any questions, anything kind of comes up. But let me just see if there was anything. Oh yeah, there was a couple more things here. Walking through, because I do the chat walks now, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and additional to Sundays. Free, I just made them free. They're so grateful. And as we're walking through the cemetery, one of the cemeteries in Toronto, there's the engraving IHS. And IHS almost looks like a symbol on some of them, and it is more for Catholic, but it means Jesus is what it means. IHS means Jesus. The other thing that I thought was interesting, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with this person or not, it goes way back when, but I want to bring it up. Why? Because again, language. So I'm just kind of going through and making sure I've got, so here we go, I'm going to bring it up. This was interesting. So I don't know how many of you knew Earhart. He was this, oh, where is it? I think it's ESP. ESP. I have to go back here. So Werner Earhart, and I think it was called EST. And they would have all these gatherings, and I've watched a documentary, somebody gave me the thing to watch, and yes, brainchild of the former used car salesman named Jack Rosenberg. But back in the 60s, Rosenberg deserted his wife and 4 children in Philadelphia, changed his name, this is language, just change your name, to Werner Hans Erhard, and moved to California, where he started another family and came up with the idea for S. So in a nutshell, Erhard's message was this: if you're in a rut, the problem isn't your parents, your boss, or the system, it's you. Which I would say, no, not really. Not that we've understand programming. So take responsibility, Erhard said, and you can transform your life overnight. Who was the role model, the living example of what the S training could do? Who else but Werner Erhard, a man, some of his employees say, thought of himself as God. So this is, I'm going to put this in, this has to do with WikiLeaks, and it was a 60-minute, CBS News 60-minute transcript. So not actually, maybe it's on YouTube. Didn't have a chance to look at it. So this person is interviewing Wendy Drucker, who used to work for, and so just confirming that, so, okay, blah, 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 blah. Did it feel like a cult to you? And Wendy says, well, I would have never believed that. I could be a person who would wind up in a cult. But regardless of using that name, there was literally thousands and big names and rich people like Hollywood and everything got involved in it. But they're part of this, what do they call it? Hollywood. No, there's another name they're calling it. But anyway, satanic stuff here. And, yep. Whoa, let's see, persuaded. I thought that those people were the people down at the airport, you know, with the tambourines. And yet, certainly mind control was involved. And if that's what cults do, and they set up a leader to be bigger than anyone else, like a godlike figure, I would say yes, that was true in the organization. This is Est. Did he encourage you folks to think of him as something, you know, more than an ordinary man? Absolutely, absolutely. We were told to surrender to him as source. So, did he ever say things like that to you? I am source. He says, oh yes, to the whole staff, at staff meetings, sure, I'm the source. Now, I want to explain something. I'm not going to go much further than that. You can go through it as you want. It doesn't look like it's too big, but the idea is when I watched the video, it came to mind that when he had to flee the country, okay, so this Werner guy had to flee the country, and for whatever reason, I'm not sure, who knows what he did outside. There's something of sexual things that have been said about that in the video. It's been a long time, but the idea was he left the company to the employees, and some of these employees went on to create other companies, and one of them, from what I understand, is Landmark. That Landmark is actually comes from that. So Werner Erhard didn't create Landmark, but he created this Est, and when that went bust, those employees which he left the company to went on, I don't know if all of them did or just who did, went on to create Landmark. And I'm not sure if there was another name before that. I can't remember. It's been several years. But there you go. I am God. So this just gets back to my trying to communicate to all the good people out there and to everyone is not to worship anything. If anybody says you are to worship me, then get the heck out of there. Like, that is not the way it works. Absolutely not. So that's the way that is. So really, it's just to use common sense. But as we've heard in the past, people who are vulnerable are wanting to feel like they belong. And that's what I see with some of these groups. However, they're big as Est, or they're as small as some others, just 100. The potential is that kind of setup is coming into play. but you be the judge. The way I look at it is nobody's going to tell me what to do. Nobody should be telling you what to do. They should be working together and with us, and it shouldn't feel cliquey at all. It should be welcoming for people all around, and I can see how people can do that. And I've seen it in groups, whether they know it or not. They just try to, and people feel left out. You know, they're new, and they come in, and you know, I've noticed this in our conversations and make them feel welcome. But they come in, and everybody else is getting caught up and hugs, and they know each other. And these people that are new and they come in, of course, that's how they grow. But they are feeling like that. Of course, maybe they want that, and maybe that's all part of it for them, seeing it, how it works. Mind games, mind games. Let's go into the jokes now. Talk about change, which always happens. Okay, so I've read a couple of these, but I'll see what the other ones are all about. You ready? You got to put your thinking cap on here, because they usually are questions. Okay, why are horse-drawn carriages so unpopular? Why are horse-drawn carriages so unpopular? Because horses are awful at drawing. All right. Nobody said they have to be brilliant, but they're okay. Why is a river rich? Why is a river rich? Because it has two banks. I like that one. Okay, that's a good one. Why do you call an intense love of math? What do you call an intense love of math? Calculus. Calculus. All right, some of them can be a little groan. But what do you call a group of killer whales playing instruments? I've heard this one before. What do you call a group of killer whales playing instruments? An orchestra. An orchestra. There you go. That's all I have for today. We're making our way through the calendar, and that's what happened last year. I got one of those joke calendars, so there's one for every day. We're on November 23rd after these four of them, but we'll make our way through them. And then what next? I don't know. Have to find something else, I guess. So take care, everyone. I'll put the posts down below so that you can, the links, post them below so you can take advantage of checking them out, seeing them for yourself, as I like to say, and just other piece of information that you can share, that you can speak from watching it yourself, and there you go. So take care, have a wonderful evening, and hope to see you on the Sylvain glorious and free Zoom call tonight at 7:30. That would be great. I'm really looking forward to what he's going to say. I've actually been prepped because I was sending some emails back and forth to Sylvain that it's a must be on this call tonight. Something is going to be shared. So I don't say it because, woo, you know, we're going to get, but I have to say there's only 100 spots apparently because it's new. I mean, it is the way it is, but there you go. So take care. All the best. Continue to be calm and kind and find some joy in every day. And, you know, find that peace. Any which way works for you. Find that peace because that is important at any time, because when you're not in that peaceful place or comfortable place or joyful place, then that is affecting your physical body. Whether that means you're not sleeping as well, maybe that means you're having thoughts you wouldn't normally have, all of that. So find that, reach out, continuously reach out to the, you know, a friend here, a person here or there, touch base with people, especially if they're living alone. I think that's worth it. And if you have any, as most people probably have here, some comfort with what's going on, some idea, and as David Icke's son said yesterday morning, he said, we know what we need to do to get to where we need to get to make this world open and free, and everything else we know it needs to be. They know, they, whoever they are, know what they need to do. Now they just have to do it. So patience is a virtue, as they say. Use that, remember that, take that to heart, and we'll go from there. So until next time, live at 5, take care, bye for now, and we'll see you again soon.